Happy Thursday. I think it's Thursday. Um, Interesting day going on here. I had a procedure, no need to go into the details. Ow. On Tuesday, so I'm on painkillers right now. But I was like, you know what? I can't do anything else today. I might as well make a video blog. Um, the light's not great in here, but you might be able to see I've got some red on my face. Um, I think so they put you under anesthesia, right? And I think whatever they put on my face, I had some kind of like allergic reaction to. So it's much better today. It was really bad yesterday, like super red and blotchy and like itchy. And now it's just warm. It's not quite so hot and burning. And it's bad on my nose, weirdly enough, and like down around here. So and then, of course, I have music on in the background today because the dandelion would not be quiet. And the only thing I could do to get her to be quiet was to put this like ambient music on the TV. So fingers crossed she stays quiet. I'm going to grab, oh, it's empty. Oh, that's because I have two. It's like, things just collect when you're sitting on the couch all day. You got this. This is actually Octavius, our old dog. He died in 2021. He's a good boy. I made this mug for Josh, and I pretty much am the only one that uses it these days. It has seltzer water in it. Not even like coffee. Um, so I was actually thinking about this morning. I was thinking about a lot of things this morning, but beekeeping. So my dad is a beekeeper, and I started helping him with the bees when I was just like a little kid. Like we have pictures of me like 8 years old in the honey room, barefoot, of course. And so I have two brothers. I have an older brother and a younger brother. And so out of the three of us, I was the one who liked doing bees the most. So I had my first hive when I was like 10. It died. But I was just thinking this morning, in my Discord server, I asked in the questions of the day, like, what are some of your best memories, or like, what's one of your best memories? And I was kind of like going through my own childhood, teenage memories. And I was like, well, I have some really good memories about playing oboe. And then the other sort of category of memories that sort of popped ahead was beekeeping. So like I said, I had my first hive when I was like 10. Most of the early, like as a little kid, the helping stuff tended to be just like following him around. And then like doing the harvesting isn't too bad for kids, So I don't know what you know about harvesting honey. Probably nothing. So, you've probably seen pictures of hives, right? They're kind of like square. Inside the hives are frames, and the bees put the honey in the cells in the frames. So when you harvest the honey, you take the frames out, and they've put like this coat of wax over top of the cells that are full of honey. So the first thing the human has to do is remove that coating of wax, which you usually use a hot knife to do. A hot knife, there's like literal hot knives that are like electric, and they have like heat that runs through the blade. Or one of the things we did as kids is my dad would keep like a pot of boiling water, and like you would just have a knife sitting in it, and you could pull it out and the blade would be hot. We didn't do the blade, we didn't do the cutting as little kids, but you cut the wax off. And then we had an extractor, which is basically this big sort of cylindrical machine with like these cages in it, and you would put the frames inside and then you would spin it. And that was our job most of the time, because we had a hand crank one when I was a kid. And so you sit there and you would crank it. And then, centrifugal force would cause the honey to fly out of the frames against the walls of the extractor, and then it would drip down to the bottom, and there was like a drain hole, what are they called, a spigot, and then you could open the spigot and the honey would drip out into a bucket, and then you go through and you do all of the straining and then the bottling and all that stuff. So I started doing that when I was a little kid, helping every year, and it was like super fun. We had all these games we would play, like when I was a little older and I started being able to use the hot knife, one thing that sometimes happens if the frame is just like perfectly positioned is when you're pulling the knife along the frame, sometimes the wax will like roll, and we call them wax cigars. And so we would have contests to see who could make the biggest wax cigars. Um, and then we would have contests like to see who was faster, the person spinning the extractor or the person like cutting the wax. That's dangerous actually because you can do what's called blowing out the wax in the frames where you actually damage the part that's underneath by spinning it too fast, but you know, kids or whatever. Um, Another thing that I helped my dad with sometimes was I would go up and actually like help with maintenance of the hives. So what we would do is we would go into the apiary and we would like open up the lid of the hive and pull out frames. We would look for the queen. We would look for any issues like mites being on the bees or anything like that. Sometimes I didn't usually do the weed whacking, but I might help with like cleaning up around the bee yard sometimes. My dad had a scale, so sometimes we would weigh the hives to figure out how much honey was in them. I also, and this is probably one of my favorite things to do, is I helped a lot with collecting swarms. So there's usually two swarm seasons in the region that my parents live in. In the spring is like the main swarm season, and then you would have kind of like this mini swarm season at the end of summer. And what happens when bees swarm is it means that they've hatched a second queen. So they have the original queen and then they have the new queen. And the queens usually fight at some point, and whichever queen wins stays with the hive. And then the other queen leaves and takes some bees with her, and she has to find a new place to live. So sometimes the bees will go, live in a tree or whatever. And then sometimes what they'll do is just like stop to rest and they'll hang on a branch. And you'll just kind of have this ball of bees hanging off of a branch or a bush, or sometimes they'll land on people's cars, or like they're just like indiscriminate for the most part. They'll rest wherever they need to rest. And a lot of times, like people will freak out because they'll see this like ball of bees and they'll call 911 and they'll be like panicking or whatever because there's just bees, right? So, especially in the spring, these are pretty valuable for beekeepers because there's basically free bees. So they'll go and they'll get the bees for free. They won't charge if it's a swarm. They won't charge. They'll go get the hive, or they'll go get the colony. No, it's not a colony. They'll go get the swarm of bees, and they'll take it back and they'll give it a new hive and all that stuff. And so I help my dad do that a lot. I mean, I've helped him catch dozens of swarms. And my dad is really fun because he'll like go and like educate people, and he'll give them little lessons on beekeeping while he's doing it. He'll entertain the kids, and so it was pretty fun when I was a kid or a teenager. I did that more as a teenager, and then like when I was kind of in college, right after spring semester ended, and I would come home and I'd be home like right during swarm season, and so I would go out and help him then. And then the other thing I helped, especially as I got older, was removing colonies. And I've only done this a few times, but it's really fun, where you basically have a bee hive, a colony that's taken up residence somewhere. So there's a big difference between a bee swarm and a bee colony. Like a swarm, they're not very aggressive. They're like just kind of in travel mode. But a colony has like decided like this is my home, and they'll protect it like it's their home. So people will get them like in the siding of their house, or a lot of times they'll be in barns, that kind of thing. So probably the biggest one that I ever helped my dad with was there was this old house kind of rural near where they lived. um, and it was going to get knocked down. And the guy who owned it had gone in and seen that there's a colony of bees in the house. And so he was the kind of person who cared about the bees, and he wanted them removed before the house was demolished. So me and my dad went into this like really old kind of crappy house, found the swarm, And it turned out to be found the colony. It turned out to be two colonies. There was one on the first floor and one on the second. And so my dad and I spent like 8 or 9 hours at this house, just like vacuuming bees out of it. So that's basically how we did it for this particular one. It doesn't always work like this, but my dad has a stethoscope, like what doctors use, and he'll put it up against the wall and he'll listen to find where the bees are because you can hear them humming and buzzing. And then he'll rip off part of the siding to try to get in. The most important thing is that you find the queen, because if you find the queen, then but you're like basically breaking into these guys' house, right? So they get very aggressive and very angry with you. Once you find the queen, then it's just a matter of getting as many of the bees as you can. My dad has a bee vacuum, which is what it sounds like. It's a vacuum, but with like a very low sucking pressure so that it doesn't injure the bees. And then um, they're not going into like a bag, but it's like I don't remember. I think he had it hooked up to like a cardboard box or something. Anyway, so we would go through and suck the bees out of the walls and try to get as many of them. And it took forever because one colony turned into two colonies. My dad and I started having a contest to see who would get stung the most times. I won, just in case you're wondering. My dad got stung 8 times that day, and I got stung 11. Um, and that might sound terrible, but it's actually not. If you're not allergic, it's not that big of a deal. The first sting hurts the most. The second sting hurts the second most. The third sting hurts the third most. And after that, it doesn't really hurt anymore. Well, for me at least, you build up like a temporary tolerance, a temporary immunity to the bee venom. And so the first 3 stings hurt, but after that, you just kind of, your body doesn't, you feel the pinch like when that actually stings you, but you don't like it doesn't swell up and you don't have like a lot of extra pain on top of that. So that was a really fun day. It was hot and it was a long day, but I really, it's like a really good memory of just like spending a whole day with my dad vacuuming bees out of the wall of a house. I know it's like a weird good memory, but it's a really good one. Um, so yeah, beekeeping. And now I know a lot of bees. Like I've gone to conferences about beekeeping with my dad, even though I don't have bees myself, because I know exactly how much work they are uh, to actually take care of. It's very complicated, and it's expensive, and they don't survive the winter very well. There's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to successfully having bees. Maybe in the future when we have like a little bit more stable lifestyle, like we're not moving all the time, I might try to have a few hives. I had also thought like we're going to be moving at some point in the future here. But when we get to the new place that we're going to be, I was thinking about joining like a beekeeping association and just like volunteering with some of the other people and helping them because I miss doing it, but owning the bees and taking care of them is a big responsibility, you know? So, and I doubt anybody would be like, oh no, I don't want free labor, you know? Um, I actually started a book about a beekeeper. She was a young woman who kept bees. Um, and I really liked it. I had like a lot of like cozy tropes in it. Small town drama, like at this local beekeeping association. There was gonna be like a little like romance in it. But I lost the trail of the story. Like I lost the thread of the story. Um so I'm not entirely sure. I might go back to it one day, but I'm not entirely sure what that's exactly going to look like. So, but I really do want to write a book with a beekeeper as a main character or a major character at some point in the future. I just know so much about beekeeping and I think it'd be really fun to kind of take some of that knowledge and just like craft it into like a story. So, we'll see. We'll see if I ever get there. Anyway, so yeah, I was thinking about beekeeping today and I was like, you know what? You know, on painkillers and sitting on the couch and I can't do anything today, I might as well make a vlog about beekeeping. So I hope you're having a good day and I hope you're having a good week. We're getting really close to Christmas, which is a holiday I don't celebrate, but other people do. So I know everybody's getting like super busy and kind of like, trying to fit in all that holiday stuff and make sure they have all the experiences that they want to experience and whatnot. But I am just chilling on the couch. So, listening to this space ambiance and crossing my fingers that my dog stays asleep. Anyway, happy Thursday. And if you ever see a swarm, call your local beekeeper. Don't panic. I feel like there's some other message I'm supposed to get when I talk about beekeeping. Oh, yeah. Um, don't panic. That's like the same as Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide. Don't panic. If a bee flies around your head, don't freak out, don't flail around, don't make them think you're a bear. Just take a deep breath and move calmly and slowly away. The bee doesn't really care about you. It's just doing its thing, It's more likely to sting you if it thinks you're a threat, so just don't be a threat. Don't act like a threat, don't look like a threat. Just move slowly away. And if you're allergic to bee stings, take that very seriously. Make sure you always have an EpiPen around and, be careful. So, go bees and go beekeeping. Oh, I still haven't come up with like a sign off. I'm getting tired of see you later, alligator. It's kind of boring. So I'm gonna have to come up with something eventually. But who cares? It's a vlog. It can evolve and change as I evolve and change, right? Right. All right. Well, peace out, y'all. I went to the University of North Carolina, but like I'm definitely a Yankee. So, but I think that all y'all is like one of the most useful, um, like linguistic structures in the English language. And I'm annoyed that it's like only Southerners can use it. All y'all. We don't have like a casual you all in the North. So, use guys. I think that's like Minnesota. But anyway, all y'all. Peace out, all y'all. And I promise I will come up with a better sign off one of these days. Adios.